What's up? Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning to some people out there who's already started their morning. We need to discuss and talk about this straight to the letter. Like we need to get straight to it because we have a major problem on the horizon now. Yes, sir. Oh, it went down today. Yeah. To all the Diddy haters, oh, this is not gonna be a good day for you. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to find a way in your heart to kiss the ring. Oh my God. OMG. I said they were gonna do this originally. I said, well, no, those charges they can appeal those. I and God damn it, did they do it today? It went from we're gonna put a $50 million bail package together to you know what? We want all these charges kicked out. It was like roll. So Diddy was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation for engagement and prostitution. Right. Don't forget to hit the like button and thank you again for coming in here as quickly as you did. What's up, Kimberly Kirk? I see you. Yep, that's what they should have asked for immediately, McCann. That's what I thought they were gonna do from the very beginning. And once again, I was right. Actually, the lawyer that I know that actually performs and like go to court and does RICO, he was right once again, as he keeps telling you guys the grounds for this. But I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. So anyway, Sean Diddy Combs was found guilty of what they called a high-end, high-profile trial, which it was, for flying girlfriends and male sex workers around the U.S. for broad sexual encounters, referred to as the free calls. Right? That's what they said. However, he was cleared of the more serious charges of racketeering, the RICO, and actual sex trafficking itself. Now, Diddy has been in jail since September of last year, right? So he's supposed to be sentenced in October. Now Trump talking about he gonna have Diddy acquitted to try to get away from all the Epstein talk. I'm considering it. Yeah, I'm considering acquitting Diddy because he wants to try to get some type of news in his favor, right? So late Tuesday night, well, that wasn't late. It was like early Tuesday morning. They renewed a request for his release on a $50 million bond ahead of the hearing, right? Now, late last night, they filed another motion to the court saying that they should either grant a judgment of acquittal or at a minimum a new trial on the prostitution related offenses. They're not going to retry this case. In the new filings, Combs' defensive team says the U.S. government had painted him as a monster ever since his arrest, but argued his 2-month trial showed allegations of a 20-year racking enterprise and of sex trafficking with multiple women were not supported by credible evidence, and the jury rejected it. They also said that it's their knowledge that he's the only person ever convicted of these charges for the conduct he was accused of in court. say I'm a Diddy lover. You just this bash Diddy, and they don't look at the actual case that the people are lying. That people are lying in this case and have been lying for a long time and was getting away with it. Now, I like how they found something because the conversation went from asking to dictating. They're not even asking for nothing anymore. They're dictating now. They said it is undisputed. Undisputed means there is no question about it. It is undisputed that he had no commercial motive and that all involved were adults. The men chose to travel and engage in activities voluntarily. The verdict confirms the women were not vulnerable and exploited or trafficked or SA during the freak offs or hotel nights, period. All the evidence the prosecution had was thin at best and said that the trial would have been totally different had the rapper only been charged with the offenses that they had up before them. If they didn't go for RICO, if they didn't go for trafficking, and they just had this Mann Act, that trial would have been totally different. Sean Combs is sitting in jail based on evidence that he paid an adult male escort and entertainers who engaged in consensual sexual activities with his former girlfriend, which he videotaped and later watched with the girlfriend. That is not prostitution. And if it is, his conviction is unconstitutional. And that's what they said in the filing. Sean Diddy Combs faces being in jail for several years after his conviction of these charges. He was cleared of the more serious charges that could have put him in prison for life, and the verdict was hailed as a victory by his team. Immediately after he was acquitted of those charges, his lawyer asked for the release on bond. Judge Amram Subramanian denied the request, who heard the trial and said Combs at the time had not met the burden of showing by clear and convincing evidence a lack of danger to any person in the community. It's it was ridiculous. It was a way to say, I can't embarrass my pro. They just got embarrassed, dog. They gotta have a win. Well, that's what's happening here. You see, when you start piecing this thing together, you start to see the real villain. When you start to see a real villain, and that is the how the government was moving, then you start to understand it a little bit more. He should be out right now. Of course, he should be out right now. There was no reason for him to ever be in. Now, all of a sudden, exactly. because none of that stuff that they're talking about, they will win. They should just he should just acquit the charges and be done with it. Be done with it. Because you're only gonna make a fool of yourself if you continue to go down this road. Mhm. Only because when you have a situation like this where these 2 counts, first of all, Diddy never slept with any of the male escorts. He only flew them out. But they's like, "Well, did he? He never arranged for transportation at all." Mhm. Well, see, there's a lot of different twists and turns in the situation altogether. And when you have a ton of charges like that, you got to think about it. Diddy one did not essay these people. Nobody on the stand ever said he did. No one on the stand said Diddy slept with him. Diddy has not arranged any type of freak offs with these men as far as him getting down with them. He's never he's never arranged it to the point where they're sitting there saying he did all these things to him, and he didn't do any of it. So if that's the case, they have a very serious problem on their hands. Mhm. How did I don't even know how you got there. He did not profit off of any of it. Like he did not get paid. So it wasn't like he was being paid for services. I told you, being paid is very key here. If there's no money trail, how in the world are you going to it's so difficult. It is very difficult to get a conviction off of this. This is why it's never happened in the history. It's never happened in history, people. So if it never happened in the history of this world, how are we sitting here saying to ourselves, "Oh, it needs to happen right now," or "Oh, this man did it"? Like there's a first time for everything. There's a first time for which is a white racist law that was made to keep black people in check. keep them segregated. You're gonna tell me you okay with this law being used on a black man as a black man? That's some wild, wild work. Oh, the Gill case? No, Gill wished this case on Gill. He put something out yesterday talking about I'm out, I'm snitching. It's something real stupid that his lawyer should tell him to take down. We did a whole live stream on Gill yesterday, uh, and it was incredible. Hmm. That dude that you came in here praising, homie, he's having a rough go because all of his BS is blowing up right in his face, straight like that. Now, let's get to the gist of why all of this is going the way it's going. Hmm. Yeah, you got people that align themselves with the other people in the case because they want to get attention, they want to be known, they want to stand out, and when they start to get some numbers going in their direction, then they ego and their attitude change. They act like they so above this, and they trying to let views validate their opinion. Oh yeah, Puff suing them the whole nine, and he should sue because what they did to him was so criminal. Everybody in there is accountable. Everybody needs to be held accountable. He should sue. Nothing in his case file says that Sean Diddy Combs should be under this type of scrutiny. Never in the history of trials, right now, you've had people with way bigger profile than Sean Diddy Combs. What are they talking about here? It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. The prosecutor that tried to come after Sean Diddy Combs and his family, hit the like button too, y'all. We've been live for a minute now. But the prosecutor who tried to come after them, you saw it happen, right? Mhm. Well, yeah. The Listen, if Diddy did not engage in sexual acts with the person that he flew over, right? That was the sex worker. He did not organize any of the transportation. He's on record for not organizing that. He's the first man to be charged and found guilty of the Mann Act based on those charges alone. Where does that make sense? And all of these people who talked about this trial, and I'm trying to tell you, this man was innocent the whole time. And I said, this is nothing but just his activity. And they just want to, they knew. The government knew. They had nothing. They wanted to publicly humiliate this man. And it just so happens he's black. They don't do it to any other race. What white man had a trial in which Harvey Weinstein trial? He bigger than Diddy. Hell, he the one cutting Diddy check. What happened there? You see, he should be exonerated. Of course, he should have been exonerated. He never should have been in this situation at all. This is the problem I have with. Mhm. Well, no. I've tried m- many of times to communicate fairly to people and do what is requested. Absolutely. I tried to give you guys the very best of everything that we've done, actually, to get to a certain point where mhm. Well, how many people you know. Right. How do you know these people who were mhm, mm-mm. I've never seen anything where no, I've never seen that. Well, when you wanna get something done correctly, normally people do it themselves. You know what I'm saying? You don't have people that don't get they don't get the gist of what's going on. Mhm. Lee, exactly. Hey, Lee, now if he'd have went to a state court, he would have been found guilty. But they couldn't take him to a state court on these charges because they were past the statute of limitation. All this stuff should have happened years ago if they really was gonna do something. None of these people ever went to the police. So that's a whole nother thing. Now you got certain clowns that come on here and they want to ignore the evidence. When you tell them what happened in the trial, what happened with this? No, 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 no. Let's look at this stuff that wasn't in the trial. See, you got to go to the stuff that wasn't in the trial. See, the judge was really being nice to him because he could have allowed this in the trial, but he didn't. That's not how a trial works. If you read the transcripts, they went over the things that they wanted to allow into the trial, but reasons of past statute of limitations and the law is the reason why those things weren't in the trial. It wasn't 'cause but when you have stupid people and dumb bastards who wanna report on what's happening, and they doing it on a slant. Talking about, man, they get mad because of how you doing something. Man, I don't got to do it the way you do it. You don't. No one asked you to. Because you damn sure haven't been doing that. You're not, I'm just going off the facts of the trial, the facts of the evidence that you seem to be omitting. If there was something there on Sean Diddy Combs, I would say, hey, this is here. They got him on this. I don't know how he's going to get out of this. But when you're looking at the case and you're saying, wait a minute, this ain't right. You can see it laid out before you. People who've been here since day one, when we start covering this thing, like McCann here, he saw it, I saw it, we're looking right at it, and we're like, whoa, this ain't right. And when people support clowns, that's why the notions of what you're seeing, it happens in the way you see it happen. Because they know they're clowns. They know what they are. They know they scamming you. They know they getting over. They trying to fool you into believing that they're smart. Well, they submitted a 62-page document. Mhm. That was late Wednesday. They filed a motion asking for Diddy's conviction early this month to be thrown out, or bearing that he will be given a new trial. They nervous. They gonna have to or go through a new trial. Which one would you want to do? Would you want to go through the new trial? Exactly, Kai. And I'm tired of these people like what Gene is trying to do. Gene, we know you don't like Sean Puffy Combs. We get it. Okay? We get it, bro. You don't like Puffy Combs. But don't try to alter the evidence. Don't try to make up new stuff every time. Like, why did they review what happened when they found the gum under his shoe? Yeah. See, the feds, they could have really had him, but they didn't go all the way. What about the gum under his shoe? Where did that gum come from? Yeah. See, they ain't looking at everything. See, because if they looked at everything, that gum that's under his shoe could have came from the sex worker. Look, I'm telling you, this is how retarded it sounded. Oh, the way he keeps talking about it, the more he talks about it, the worse it gets. The worse it gets. I've never seen something, heard something that sounds so ridiculous.
Or an acquittal altogether. Combs was found not guilty of the more serious sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy charges, but was convicted of transporting sex workers across state lines. Now, his attorneys say his actions don't fit the crime. Let's bring in Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky and ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer.
Did he look high on that?
Aaron, what's the latest here?
So, Diane, his attorneys say that the way this was charged doesn't exactly match what Sean Combs did. And they say he's the only person who's ever been convicted of this charge, transportation for the purposes of prostitution, who hasn't benefited from the prostitution other than through voyeurism. They say voyeurism, watching other people have sex, isn't what this law was meant to address. Combs, they say, didn't profit from the prostitution. In other words, he was no pimp here. And he wasn't a John either. He didn't have sex with the male escorts. Instead, he brought girlfriends and male escorts across state lines to watch them have sex. And his attorneys say that that just doesn't fit what the law is about.
Brian, what would it take for a judge to agree to either a new trial or an acquittal here?
The judge really agreed to what the arguments, as Aaron Katersky laid out, were to be true, that the use of the Mann Act, or specifically transportation engaged in prostitution, has never been in the ways applied here. This would be new precedent in many ways for both ways. If the judge was to agree that the Mann Act can extend to an individual who does not commercially profit from a sexual act or who does not participate in it, but it also would be precedent setting to dismiss or acquit Sean Combs of these two charges. The other aspect of it as well would be to look at this case and say that the information that came in from the racketeering conspiracy allegations or the sex trafficking, we're talking about the force, the fraud, the coercion, that infamous Intercontinental Hotel video would have been prejudicial towards Sean Combs if just looking through the lens of this transportation to engage in prostitution. That argument would allow for another trial. But I don't think it's going to happen at this level in front of Judge Subramanian. I think this is a stronger argument on an appeal if they bring it to a higher court.
So, Brian, is the idea that if you had just charged him with this and the trial was just about this, he would not have been convicted?
Yeah, that's the second part of the argument, that argument for a new trial. They're saying that if you had information like the Intercontinental video, the allegations of assault or coercion that would not have come in because they would not have been relevant as the defense is arguing, the consensual recording of sex and transportation of individuals across state lines, that information would have not come in. And because that information did come in, it prejudiced Sean Combs. And for that reason, or at least for one of the many arguments, Sean Combs should be afforded a new trial.
It had nothing to do with a freak off. That evidence, that tape should have never been admitted in court. But they knew without that tape, they have no case. That links to everything to try to say there's a traffic situation. How in the world are they going to say that there's a trafficking situation when there's no trafficking going on, people? What's happening here? Are we in the Twilight Zone? There's no trafficking. So how in the world can we say that? How did they jump from point A to point D saying she's trying to escape a freak off? He's trying to drag her back to the freak off. He drags her back, and then they had the video edited, sent it to CNN, edited, knowing it was edited, saying, we didn't do it, the hotel did it. Why would the hotel edit the goddamn video? They got no reason to. They have no reason to ever edit a goddamn video. Right there, it shouldn't have been admitted. They got a judge who only been on the bench for 2 years. They put the NF prosecution in line. These people have done pretty much nothing. The Epstein trial was a closed case. She didn't even have to argue. She argued against Giselle Maxwell, right? Epstein was supposedly dead. I really don't think he's dead. I think he faked his death and they moved him out of the country. I really think they did. To be honest, if you want my honesty, I'm going to tell you. I think he really faked his death. He's not dead. That photo they leaked of him supposedly dead, that looked orchestrated. Everything looked too orchestrated. The security video is just not working? No, he wouldn't fake his own death. The powers that be that need him out of this situation faked his death. In my own personal opinion, I feel they pulled him out of that. When I first saw the death video photo, I said, that don't look real. The Trump getting hit and it grazed the ear, that didn't look real. And his ear is back 100%, don't look like nothing ever happened to it. That don't look real. You've seen people who got burned by the thing just coming by their ear. Their ear is gnarled up. Now, it's not about Epstein and what he was doing to go through this situation to get him out. Like I'm saying, if they were going to take him out, that wouldn't be the way to do it. It would have drew too much suspicion. The way they did it made it look like he made the decision himself. There's nobody else to look at. So they could have took him out a number of different ways, but in those ways, it would have made somebody had to do this. So now, if you do it that way, you move him out. But hell, that works even better. If he is gone, now there's no case. They open up this file they got on him that they keep dangling over Trump. Said that worked for the Democrats to sway the voters for these midterms come up, because that's important. So that's what that's about. That's politics. 100% politics. Well, when you have, like, let's say you're looking at scenarios in which you are one of the most prominent individuals in the game, and Sean Diddy Combs, right? You're prominently known. Everybody see you, and they have to make their own decisions. Like, they got to come to realization that there's something we need to do here that we probably hadn't done. And when you move like that, now you're putting everything at risk. You're putting all of it at risk, because it don't even matter at this point. You've already lost the case. If you're the government, let the man go home. That's all we saying. That's all I'm saying, is let the man go home. Why are we not doing that? That's the part I have a hard time grasping or getting my head around.
Aaron, the defense is also trying to get him out of jail on bond or bail as he awaits the sentencing on this lesser charge. What's the latest on that?
Along the same lines, they don't believe that a conviction on this one count warrants his incarceration. The judge said that there is a presumption of being held without bond or bail when you're convicted of this crime, and that's what prosecutors pushed. The judge agreed. The judge also noted that Combs was violent, that the violence was depicted on the video. It was testified to by witnesses. The defense, what Brian says that none of that really should have applied to this one charge. So therefore, let him out. until he's sentenced on October 3rd.
Brian, the fact that the judge cited violence and that hotel video as part of the reason for keeping Combs in jail, could that help the defense with this larger argument that this other conviction should be dropped?
In some sense, yes, but what we're doing is kind of mixing apples and oranges as to what a judge can consider for bail purposes, where you're asking the question of whether or not a person is a flight risk or whether or not they're a danger to community. Judge Supermanian, looking at that standard, used the violence that he saw, that we all saw in this trial, to keep him in. But the different analysis for whether or not a charge should be dismissed applies in a different setting. That would be the apples and oranges again, where the violence should not have come in if Sean Combs was only tried for this one charge. And so they can kind of pick and choose their arguments differently as it applies to different standards. And yes, it overall could benefit them.
Aaron, what are you watching for looking ahead to sentencing in October?
Well, he faces, in theory, 10 years in prison. It doesn't seem like that's what the judge is thinking, because even though he found Sean Combs to be a danger and kept him in jail pending sentencing, he also challenged federal prosecutors to show him cases where anyone convicted solely of the charge of transportation to engage in prostitution was given anything along the lines of a 10-year prison sentence. And the defense certainly doesn't think those cases exist. Prosecutors haven't submitted anything just yet. They're going to push undoubtedly for a stiff sentence. The judge has taken note of Combs's violence. The defense says he is already talking about a batterers program, so he can probably do that without having to be in jail for any more than time served.
All right, Aaron Katersky, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you both.
As soon as he made those decisions, they came right after him. As soon as he made those decisions, they came right after Puff. We have seen serial killers get treated with much more respect than Sean Diddy Combs. We've seen Harvey Weinstein get treated with so much respect. Giselle Maxwell, we've seen her get treated with so much respect. Whenever there's a black person on trial, O.J. Simpson wasn't even one of the most famous people in the world anymore. Like, O.J. was approachable. He didn't walk around with security. He was doing Hertz commercials. He was doing broadcasts on TV. We knew him like, hey, that's O.J. Simpson. But we didn't break out like, yo, that's Juice. Hey, OJ. He wasn't in the hood. He wasn't amongst the people. So there's been a lot of like disinformation. There's been a lot of this nonsense that has been pulled. They're like this wool over our eyes. No. What you have here is a failure to communicate. And when you have a failure to communicate with the people, then, other people seems to know it. They seem to understand what's going Mm-hmm. All of these people who became anxious didn't understand. Mm-hmm. No, they didn't understand that. Why would they? None of these people cared about Diddy. Trump's not gonna help Diddy. Trump just saying that because he wants to be involved. If he was gonna help Diddy, you should have helped Diddy. You was the president all while all this was going on. Now you gonna have to scrub some dishes. You gonna have to be in there with Bubba and Wayne. Oh man. Gil is free on $50,000 bond. The convicted criminal Gilbert Arenas is on trial. Yes, he's a convicted felon, so it's a little difficult for him. Mm. Well, the notions have changed, and if you're not moving in what they would call the direction of positivity or just the direction of where you should be going as a person, period, this is the narrative. That's what people don't get. They don't seem to understand that this is the narrative, bruh. No one asked to be a part of anything that someone else was doing. You feel me? Nobody asked for that. Mm, no, not really, though. I'm not really concerned on that notion. And the reason why I'm not really concerned is because they didn't do it in the proper way it should have been done. So Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. So anyway, we'll wait and see what happens. Anyway, I'm out. See y'all later, man.